Coming up on today's edition of Locked On Eagles. Ooh, baby, the Eagles just unveiled their new black helmets. We'll get into our takeaways. Plus, we're going to dive deeper into what we think Johnathan Gannon's defense is going to look like in year two, with more pieces that might fit his scheme in 2022. That's coming up, all that and more on today's edition of Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to a Friday edition of the show. I'm Louis DiBiase. He's Gino Camilleri. We've been your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast 4 years running now on all podcast platforms, on YouTube as well, and on Twitter at Locked On Birds, at GC24_football, and at DiBiase LOE. A fun show today. Gino, we've been waiting for this for a long time. We've been getting teased by the Eagles Twitter account. We've been seeing other NFL teams doing this, unveiling new helmets and new jerseys with the new two-helmet rule that allows the NFL, a lot of these teams, to bring back throwback jerseys, new alternates as well. We know the Eagles are bringing back Kelly Green in 2023, but we were promised an alternate helmet this year for the 2022 season from the owner himself, Jeffrey Lurie. And it's been tough, man, because the Carolina Panthers unveiled their black helmet the other day. The New York Jets did today. Washington did it earlier this year. But we finally got a look at what the Eagles' black helmet is going to look like for the 2022 season. And overall, I think the thoughts have been pretty positive. Gino, what do you think? I mean, there it is for our YouTube listeners, a black Eagles helmet, the first time it's ever happened in franchise history.
Change the Eagle Ducks. Change the Eagle wings to duck wings, and you have the Oregon Ducks. And that's exactly the direction that the modern NFL is going. They want to expand their repertoire of all of these jerseys because who wants to buy jerseys?
Can't believe it's taking this, man. We've been missing out on this revenue goldmine for a decade.
And the NFL, who loves to dig into all the pockets of the 365-day calendar, to not have them do this and do a yearly announcement of alternate uniforms is beyond crazy to me. But when I saw this, I got the notification from PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Go right into the app. You get the announcement from Devontae Smith putting it on. Ooh-wee was my reaction, man. These things look sharp. I know that you're not as high on them as I am, but man, the first time people see this team walk out of the tunnel in the Link on prime time with the black on black, seeing the Lincoln Financial Field lights shine down on these helmets. I just imagine Brian Dawkins with a full blacked out visor coming out of that tunnel, man. That would have been an unbelievable feeling. But next year, they're going to be looking solid. And you said it to me prior to the show. You could even put this black with a white jersey. You could do black jersey with white pants. You could do all sorts of things and get rid of that Kelly or the midnight green helmet and throw this in there sometimes, because the Eagles truly, they're a team that looks good in their jerseys. The Eagles have a solid color scheme. They always have done a great job besides 1934. We know that. Outside of that, they've come a long way. And I think this fits the really modern look that the Eagles are going for. And I'm excited to see what the first blackout looks like.
The first blackout's going to be pretty cool. And everybody knows me. I am all for jersey freedom. You're an Oregon Ducks fan, so you are too. I want every team to be like the Oregon Ducks. I want soccer, too, to have all these different color schemes, and I want you to look different. Not every week, but you have the ability to do whatever you want, And so I love that we've been pounding the table. The Eagles themselves created this movement in 2017 because they wanted to bring back Kelly Green to unlock that multi-helmet rule, because the NFL for a decade did not let you wear more than one helmet, so you couldn't bring back throwbacks or new alternates with different colored helmets. So I'm all in on that. I want the Eagles to look different, and I want to look back in 20 years and say, remember when the Eagles wore a black helmet for a year? That's the cool, nostalgic part of me as a sports fan, that I love this kind of stuff. So overall, I think it is cool, and I wish they could wear 3+ helmets, and this doesn't go away in 2023. But overall, I think it's a good helmet. I think it's good, not great. I think the only change I would want in a black helmet, I was somebody that would have preferred like bring back the 70s look, the white helmet, like the late 60s look, the white helmet with a green wing, just because it might fit the current uniforms and all the combinations more. But this is sharp. The only thing I would say is maybe a little green, a midnight green in the wing, just to, if you're going to do black on black on black on like a Sunday night football game, just to get a little more midnight green in there. But overall, they are really slick, man. They're certainly not ugly. And let me pull up. Somebody did a Photoshop already of Jalen Hurts in them with the black jersey and the black helmet. I mean, that's not bad, man. That's the thing. Like, these aren't me saying this is the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets look like you brought up. Right. I like these. I would give it a 7.5, 8 out of 10. It's not a 10, but they're sharp.
And you still have to look at the midnight green that they have in the black jerseys themselves, which I think is a very good highlight when you look at it. Just doing it right outside of the number instead of just going with the white block number, you get the little detail of the midnight green there. I think the white on black helmet is super sharp. And this is one of those things, Lou, like you said, if they were to bring back the older look, this hasn't been done. This is kind of a generational blender of sorts where older, newer, no fans have seen the Eagles wear a black helmet. It's going to be a unique look. I am excited to see what they do with the Kelly green going into 2023, how they bring back more of the 70s,
this is a nice
80s style look.
Gino. This is the bridge to Kelly green.
I like what you said, that you'll be able to think back and you'll see highlights, and you'll probably see a Jalen Hurts highlight package in 15 years from now, and 3-4 of the players are in a black helmet. You're like, what? The Eagles wore a black helmet for a season? And that'll be really cool.
Well, and Gino, they're damn good when they wear black. That's the
always
other thing. Players,
you had to cash in on that element as well, Lou. We couldn't not skip over that. You're the jersey analytic guru, my friend.
Their record is incredible in black jerseys since they brought those in the mid 2000s. I would say it's unbelievable, and I think it has to do with. I'm a big proponent of the look good, play good mentality, and I think players love wearing black. Jeffrey Lurie himself said they pushed to wear black pants last year with more than just the black jersey. They wore 3 times the white jersey with the green helmet and the black pants. Now you get a black helmet too. The players love it. They feel confident in it. As you said, a blackout kind of night on Sunday Night Football or Thursday night. Their record, that's the one thing. Like, I don't love these helmets. I like them a lot. Don't love them. But what I do love is the success they have in this color. So I'm definitely not going to complain in that way either. And, Gino, the interesting part of this equation, too, is so from the last time I checked, the NFL rule is that you can wear an alternate uniform up to 3 times in a season. What that has to do with the jersey. So last year, the Eagles wore their all black jerseys twice against the Giants and the Saints. But they did wear their black pants 3 other times. So I do wonder, our good friend from CBS, Jeff Kerr, who's also a big jersey guy, said that the helmet rule might also be like jerseys where you could wear these black helmets 3 times at the max. But it would be cool if you can wear them more. Maybe you wear all black uniforms twice and then give us a game where, as you said, we get the black helmet with all white jerseys and pants, or I don't know, man, or white or like green, black. I'm just, again, throw everything out there. Even if it's ugly, it'll be funny in 10 years to look back on.
The white on white with the black helmets would
might be sharp.
Almost a stormtrooper.
And then you wear like green socks maybe, and Jalen Hurts rocks a green arm sleeve to implement the green in it too.
Sweet. I like this because a lot of our fan base, there is a crossover between Penn State fans who have the white out. Now you get the complete opposite other end of the spectrum when you go to Lincoln Financial Field with the blackout. It's 2 unbelievable environments with a lot of the same fan base. I've been to a Sunday night game in Lincoln Financial Field, Lou. There is nothing like that feeling. Being under those lights, hearing the roar of the fans when they come out of the tunnel, it just hits different than a day game does. And you know they're going to save these bad boys for prime time. I would love to see the first Dallas matchup go out all black, set the tone. They do well on them, look good, play good, feel good. I believe when you see A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts and the rest of that offense lined up in those black on blacks, it's going to be an intimidating feeling.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I'm not like super disappointed, because although I'd like some green in the helmet, like the Panthers did, they implemented blue in that black helmet.
They all
the cool thing is, as you mentioned,
from the Eagles.
as you mentioned, though, like the collar on the black jerseys has more midnight green than I actually remembered. And the accessories part with the players, like you can wear green arm sleeves, gloves, that part. So there's going to be enough green in these all blacks that it's still going to look damn sharp.
Jalen has enough swag to make it look good. Don't worry.
Overall, man, I love that the NFL is finally doing this. It took so long, but as much as even I hate the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys, I think it's cool the Cowboys are wearing their old school throwbacks on Thanksgiving and the Giants jerseys because I love the Bills.
I got to give a comment to the Bills, man. Like,
bring them back, man. The 90s, Reds, they're coming. They're going to bring back the Reds
in
eventually.
Denver too. I think they're old schools with the Bronco logo coming through the D on the side.
Yeah.
Why the NFL doesn't allow for this? This is I love this league. I love everything about the National Football League, and there's some pockets that I don't enjoy. That they get so stringent on rules about what these guys are wearing.
It
makes no sense at all.
Why could you? And they talked about player safety when that rule, the one helmet rule, is placed.
It's the same helmet. It makes no sense.
Why at camp when you fit a new player for that one helmet, can't you just do it twice? Like when Golden Tate got traded to the Eagles in 2018, he didn't have to wear his Lions helmet. I mean, you fitted him in November.
Yeah, it's not like the NHL where the goalies come over with their pads.
It was a stupid rule to begin with. And the NFL loves money, so it didn't make sense that this took so long. But it's here now. Done complaining about that. Yeah. Really happy the Eagles have a new helmet.
We'll throw that out of the complaint box. That's gone.
Absolutely.
That's gone.
All right, Gino, we had some fun jersey talk. Let's get deeper into the X's and O's coming up next. Me and you touched on this Tuesday. I also talked with NJ.com Eagles beat reporter Chris Franklin about the Eagles defense in year 2 under defensive coordinator Johnathan Gannon, how this scheme is going to look different with the new pieces like Haason Reddick, Jordan Davis, Kyzir White, Nakobe Dean, but also just overall what Gannon's going to try to do in year 2 that's different from last year, regardless of the personnel and where he needs to change, but also the positives from last year. So we're going to dive deeper into what the defense is going to look like from a schematic standpoint coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. And guys, today's show is sponsored by the best tasting protein bar on the planet. You know, I got so pumped before the show. I had a box of Built Bars and it was the s'mores puffs. Didn't even know I got the variety pack. So I got the cookie dough puffs as well. And coming from the people who invented healthy and tasty Built Bar, these delicious tasting protein bars, there also is a new flavor. It's coconut brownie chunk in the puff form. So also you have that flavor in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness, but don't stop drooling, or I should say stop drooling. No, you know what? Don't stop drooling because they're good for you. And that's the part that's awesome. It's the flavor and none of the guilt. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and they're all delicious. Coconut brownie puffs are only here for a limited time, so make sure you head over to Built.com now to make sure you don't miss out. They're going to go fast because they taste amazing. All Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. Head over to Built.com today. Use our promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off your order. Once again, that's promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order of Built Bars at Built.com. All right, Eagles fans, thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. I'm Louis DiBiase. He's Gino Camilleri. It's episode 5 this week of 5. Download it into your phone wherever you get the show. Free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube as well. Gino, we're diving into today some deeper looks into this defense from a schematic standpoint, but also want to shout out the Locked On NFL podcast because I've been really interested to follow along on this special we're doing with the top 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at Bet Online. It has to do with which NFL stars move the betting line the most. Jalen Hurts has been unveiled in this list, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast on all platforms and on YouTube as well. Again, for LOE, though, let's get into some defensive talk, Gino. And with Johnathan Gannon, we touched on this Tuesday with the newcomers like Haason Reddick, Jordan Davis, Kyzir White, James Bradberry, Nakobe Dean, Jaquaski Tart, Gino. I got it. I corrected myself. Jaquaski Tart. I've been saying it wrong for 7 years now, but we're going to change that today. We all have. And I touched on this with Chris Franklin of NJ.com yesterday as well. Just how different Johnathan Gannon's defense is going to look this year, not only because of the personnel, but just I think he's just going to dive deeper into what he really wants to do with this scheme. And a lot of people last year, they were harsh on Gannon, and I think some of it was justified, but a lot of it too, people pointed to saying his hands were tied because of the personnel he had. And I think that is certainly true. I think both sides are true. I'm kind of in the middle on the whole Gannon debate. So I feel like now his personnel certainly does fit for more odd fronts, 3-4-ish looks, if you will. I don't like using 4-3, 3-4 anymore in the NFL, but it probably will be easier for him to do more complex things, right? More creative things, disguising blitzes, certain coverages with more reliable players and maybe guys that fit. So I think we should be positive about Gannon, right? For the most part.
Absolutely so. And I always talk about defensive lines in terms of odd or even. Why is that? Because 3-4-4-3, teams aren't lining up with just 3 down linemen or 4 down linemen. You're seeing a multitude of looks. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Just call it odd or even. It's much easier to understand that way. So Jim Schwartz, what kind of defensive coordinator is he? He liked to play that even style front. And what does that mean? You're going to have a defensive end that usually is lined up over the tackle. You'll probably have a 3 tech that is lined up between the guard and or right over the guard rather. And then you're going to have on the other side probably a 2-eye tech with another edge defensive player who's in the dirt type of defensive end. Now with this odd style look, what this means, and I've read countless books on odd fronts because it is so vague when you say that, but it is so simple of a concept that really boils down to having a big guy in the middle, 2 bigger guys on the end right inside of the tackles, which opens up the outside for your quicker edge rushers. And why it is more versatile is because you could take those big guys that are on the ends and you can move them from over the tackle to over the guard. You could bring in that faster player now to rush in between the guard. You can have him rush around the edge. You don't have to keep these guys in one specific spot. But the mainstay is going to be Jordan Davis in the middle. He'll be the anchor. Everybody else, the 3, 4, 5 guys that are going to be on the line outside of him, those will be the players that they can move around. And when you don't have your hands tied by just putting Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham in the dirt right in front of a tackle, and you could stand up Haason Reddick, you could stand up Josh Sweat if you want to. You could also bring Milton Williams in to rush from a bunch of different looks. That's the thing with odd fronts, is that they are, quote unquote, quite literally odd. They're not meant to be easy to understand.
So when you're odd, does it mean you're just more multiple? It's just much more complex multiple. And there's just more things you do on defense?
Absolutely. And the playbook is going to be much deeper. It's not just a 1-gap, get up the field type of player anymore. You're going to be asked to 2-gap if you're one of those interior defensive linemen. And what does that mean? Jordan Davis will be asked to deploy his hands across the body of 2 players, and it will most likely be the center and the guard for him. And he is responsible for either the A-gap, which is just off the inside of the center, or the B-gap, which is just offside of the guard. So he has to play both of those areas now. And why this becomes multiple is because you can stunt these guys in from different lanes. You could bring in multiple different looks to occupy blockers on the offensive line, where it isn't just set the same 4 guys up, see if they could beat you one-on-one. This is more of a chess piece, 30,000-foot view. We're going to win in the game plan Monday through Saturday. So Sunday, you haven't seen a lot of the stuff that we have implemented because you're not going to know who's going to be consistently rushing the passer, who's going to drop back into coverage, who's going to be responsible for rundowns.
Right. Whereas even is more just kind of less thinking, more is that
exactly.
I was going to ask you, like, what is, and I asked you this the other day. It was interesting to listen to what you had to say about this because Jim Schwartz and Johnathan Gannon, night and day when it comes to the schematics up front.
Yeah, so, you could talk about this all day. Don't get me wrong.
And that's what I'm saying.
This is just basic talk.
Like, what do you think in a nutshell, in the most basic form? Like, why does one coach prefer odd fronts over even? Does it have to do with just simplicity versus creativity, or what else is there to it though, too?
I believe it's, and I've never been an NFL defensive coordinator to have that type of personnel to have at my disposal.
Yeah.
I believe it's just simplicity so that on the back end, you can change things up more in coverage, which to me, it kind of goes hand in hand. If you can make different looks up front with odd style fronts and mix those guys into coverages, it all goes hand in hand. You should never divorce the front from coverage, in my opinion, because it's a machine. It's all 11 guys working as a machine, as a well-oiled unit that has to move in tandem. And when you just have the guys getting upfield, like Fletcher Cox, for example, right, Lou? What did he always say? He was never responsible for screen downs, right? Well, he had to do that last year towards the end of the season. You're going to be asked to do more things as a defensive lineman. You look at Jordan Davis and why he didn't have all of those stats at Georgia, because he did exactly this. He took up a lot of space for other guys to operate in this machine.
Yeah, the roles just kind of change, right? Like you're not asking the defensive tackles much to just pin their ears back and go get them. But you're asking now your strong side linebacker to do that more, where Jim Schwartz, you never asked your linebackers to do that, and he virtually never blitzed either.
And and at the same time, you can also include Jordan Davis in that plan, right? Because if you mug Haason Reddick in the A gap, let's say, right, and he's lined up right next to Jordan Davis. Well, if Jordan Davis, he skips around, goes on a stunt, and now occupied up front is Haason Reddick with that center. Well, now you're going to have to deal with your 3-tech, who's either going to be Javon Hargrave or Fletcher Cox, and a stunting Jordan Davis, or vice versa. It just becomes much more intricate to where you would need a true college course, and you can look up countless YouTube videos of guys like Kirby Smart going on and on about how a 3-4 defense is supposed to work. And I have all of these books right here by Cody Alexander, Match Quarters. It goes into how these odd front principles are allowing coverages on the back end that want to play the 2 high, that want to devise these schemes that they don't just put the 11 out there and they play. You're going to see a bunch of different players being asked to do a bunch of different things. Your strong side linebacker will be asked to do things that your interior defensive lineman will be asked to do, which your stand-up edge rusher will be asked to do, which your off-ball linebacker will probably be asked to do. You have to be smart in this style of front because there's a lot of things going on. It's not like you said, it's not just put the blinders on a horse, have him run his lap. No, this horse has to be aware of his surroundings. He has to know that there's 3-4 horses coming around him and, I got to occupy this. I have to occupy that. I have to be responsible if, let's say, for example, Haason Reddick all of a sudden becomes your third coverage option on one side. Well, he has to be responsible for a tight end. He has to be responsible for a running back. So he's just not a defensive end. He's just not a 4-3 put your hand in the dirt, get to the quarterback guy. He is a smart football player who will ask to be doing a lot of smart football things. And I wish I could really give a hour to 2, 3, 4 hours.
You've already done a great job. I'm fascinated, man. It's football.
It is.
There's so
Once
much
I learned, I thought that
beautiful.
4-3 was the end all be all. And then I start to see guys like TJ Watt. And I'm thinking, why are they so good? Yeah, he's a good player, but a 1-1 guy gets drafted 1-1. He doesn't make it to 30 some odd overall. The scheme definitely helps guys out a little bit. You're going to see these guys that can win one-on-one matchups get a lot of help from offensive coordinators not knowing what they are going to get. Because when you played Jim, was you got what you got and you knew what it was.
Right. But I understand too the even logic too. Like when you have stars up front and you want to keep it simple and let them just go to work. When you had Fletcher Cox in his prime, I also understand that. I think a lot of it too, Gino, just has to do with matchups, right? I think you have to be multiple. And, although Gannon's going to do a lot of that odd front systematic, that's how that's going to be their base for the majority, right? That's going to be the blueprint of this defense. But, their personnel, what Gannon did show last year in the second half of the season was he can adapt. And okay, if I got players out there that do fit more with even, that he can adjust in that way too. So they're going to do stuff this year that is with even. Jordan Davis, the cool thing about Jordan Davis is he's not as, although the narrative was he's
imagine him as a
3-tech. Yeah, he can line up just fine in the role of the past Eagles defensive schemes. In Jim Schwartz's defense, he would, to me, be just as good because that's how athletic and dominant he can be in the pass rush. So it is exciting to see it's definitely way more of a complex defense than in the past. We'd like to interrupt this edition of Locked On Eagles to shout out one of our sponsors of the day. It's the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's BetOnline. At betonline.net, they're your fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 source online for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including MLB baseball, the NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Make sure you bet on the Philadelphia Phillies right now as they enter the second half of the season. 70 games left, and they're in a playoff spot. Highest ERA right now in the MLB since Joe Girardi got fired. The pitching's working. Bryce Harper, maybe he comes back soon. Segura as well. Can't wait to watch the Phillies and their run to the playoffs. Futures for the NFL. Again, golf, all that and more. NBA, where's Kevin Durant going still? I love sports betting, man. I love BetOnline that they came to the network as one of our official partners. Head to BetOnline today, betonline.net, on your smartphone or on your computer to learn more about the action happening each and every day, because BetOnline is always where the game starts. So, Gino, before we wrap up the show, though, I did want to get into, and I think Chris Franklin said this perfectly yesterday with Johnathan Gannon. It is interesting. It feels like there's no middle ground with him. After 2022, it almost feels, this is what Chris said, it almost feels like he can't be in Philadelphia after this year, because he's either going to, the defense is going to be great, so he's going to get a head coaching job. He already got interviews this past season. He's seen as one of the more up-and-coming young coaches in the league. Or if he has a lot of his same issues as a coach last year, he could get fired. So, and that is the interesting part, because personnel certainly did hold him back from really doing what he was comfortable doing as a coach in 2021. But I do feel like it wasn't all on the players. Like, there were times situationally that'll, Seth Joyner is one of the biggest proponents of this. He had big issues with, and I think I agreed with some of the stuff from what I watched last year. I think there was so much of an emphasis on not wanting to give up big plays, and especially against great quarterbacks, that it was almost like he allowed everything else. And even if it was in short yardage situations and the pass rush wasn't getting there, he would blitz the heck out of, Jake Fromm against the New York Giants. But then when it came time to play Justin Herbert or Tom Brady, I don't know. It just felt like situationally they turtled. They weren't as aggressive. And so there were some issues. And maybe, again, it was his lack of faith in the personnel. But now that he has the personnel, I think those excuses are out the door. So that part certainly has to change.
I think what Chris said is spot on. He's either going to be so good that he does get a head coaching position, or with, much like with the offense, if the guy driving the Formula One car on defense, which is your defensive coordinator, there's no quarterback on that side.
Yeah, we literally did a show one time where we said the two guys with the most pressure is Hurts and Gannon, because they're the guys 100%. That are going to decide if these units with super high ceilings reach the ceiling or they're held back.
I will say this. It was a rough transition through about the first 8 weeks or so. I'm there with you. There is very suspect situational play calling from Johnathan Gannon. We know that. But he did get better down the line. The defense did help them win some of those games going down the stretch there. Ultimately, they got beat 31 to whatever against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I think that was the last stop to say we didn't have the personnel. It wasn't as good as we thought. But if we do get better in terms of personnel and we could fit the philosophy of the scheme of your coordinator, it's going to be sky's the limit. And Johnathan Gannon should get a head coaching job. You should want your coordinator to perform at that level to get that head coaching job. And what is it going to take to get that? It's not just going to be playing an odd style front where you do just the same things over and over again. Like you said, Lou, you're going to incorporate 4 down front types of looks, even down front types of looks, because that's what your players do best. If the player does best one way and you're coaching it another, and you're not going to change your philosophy, there's going to be some headbutting there, right? But once Fletcher Cox spoke out, once Javon Hargrave spoke out, they had an honest discussion. And they both, man to man, they both played into what was best for this team. And it was putting those two guys in a position to succeed, while Johnathan Gannon who, as a first-time coordinator, I'm sure he didn't want to just go back on his ways that easy and give up on what he is implementing, but he did. And look what happened.
Yeah.
When you have that give and take between the players and the coach, that's where you succeed. And I think
that's how they turned it around. Yeah.
Much like with Nick, he's a player's coach too, man. Like,
I
to
agree.
take that public criticism and not turn it around on the player, but to say, okay, I had to take a look in the mirror. He had to talk with Nick. They all talked it out. That's what you're going to need to succeed in the NFL. It's not just going to be my way or the highway. You're going to have to give or take. Would I love to see them play simply odd style fronts this year? Absolutely. But you have to play to the strengths of all your players that are in the system.
And again, it's not even just even versus odd. It's situational coverage. It's decision-making, I thought, with Gannon. That was, the problem. They did turn it around.
Slay play zone.
Right, and that drove me nuts when he wasn't shadowing top receivers. And I feel like there were times Gannon wanted this defense to be more vanilla because he didn't have the personnel to make it more complex and creative and disguise things. But at the same time, it felt like the way he was being vanilla was making responsibilities more. There was more responsibilities on linebackers, and it felt like the four-man pass rush. When the four-man pass rush wasn't working, you didn't have Nakobe Dean and Kyzir White. It felt like what you did have was shut down cornerbacks in Avonte Maddox and Darius Slay. They're playing zone and they're playing off the ball in certain situations, and you weren't blitzing to help out the four-man pass rush until it was time to play a bad quarterback. So that's the thing is, like, yes, this defense did turn it around in the second half of the season, but remember the stretch of horrible quarterbacks they played. In the first half of the season, when they played stars, those quarterback numbers were historically good. And then you played Brady.
We were calling for his head.
Right. So, and justifiably so. And then the way the season ended, as you said, it was definitely a wake-up call. So they gave Gannon the personnel now to make sure that doesn't happen again. Super fascinating to see what happens now with all these new pieces in the 2022
eerily
season.
Similar to how we have talked about Jalen Hurts. And I think it goes
to
show how much pressure is going to be on you when a team does supply you with everything you need. Hey, Johnathan, what didn't you have? You didn't have Jordan Davis? Well, you got him now.
We won't
didn't have
be wondering what if.
You got him now.
Gino will never, all these what if episodes about Carson Wentz, Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid, so on and so forth, Chip Kelly. We'll never have a what if about Jalen Hurts and Johnathan Gannon because Howie Roseman did a good job setting those two up for success in 2022. But we'll continue to cover it all throughout the week, each and every week, all throughout the year. We're your only daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, Monday through Friday on all platforms, on YouTube as well, and on Twitter. Hit us up at LockedOnBirds, at DiBiase, LOE, and at GC24_football. Training camp starting next Tuesday. Can't wait to see how this defense starts to look from a schematic standpoint next week. For Gino Camilleri, though, I'm Lou DiBiase signing off for today. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL podcast. All the news across the league in under 30 minutes, free and available wherever you get your podcast. As always, thank you for downloading. Thank you for watching and listening. And let's go, Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.